Folks, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really care about stories in video games. Now, I'm not saying that video games can't have amazing stories. Obviously, they can. But what I mean is that I wouldn't be able to play a game with the most amazing story ever written if the gameplay itself was absolute dog shit. On the contrary, I can play a game the story of which I couldn't care less about if it has even just decent gameplay. I'm sure there are people out there that, conversely, don't care about gameplay and play games just for the story. Personally, however, if I really care about a game's story but don't like the gameplay, I'll just look the story up online. However, this video isn't going to bash Skyrim's story. There's more than enough people out there doing just that. Granted, what I want to talk about here is related to its story, which is why I started out by saying I don't really care about stories in video games, but it's really about immersion in Skyrim and indeed RPGs in general. I'll just be using mainly Skyrim to make my point. Alright, enough of this beating around the bush. The last Dragonborn. Ooh. Yeah, go fuck yourself. No, I'm sorry, but in general, I don't think being the chosen one or whatever in RPGs is bad. On its surface, narratively, it basically means you can't lose, but that's not even a big deal. The real issue is that in Skyrim, you're really not treated the way you'd expect you'd be treated. And I'm not talking about the Greybeards. In fact, the way I see it, they're just about the only people that do treat you the way you'd expect a mentor to treat you. I'm talking about how seemingly, indeed outside of Greybeards, and to a much lesser extent Delphine, nobody acts like you're this legendary hero here to save the day. Now, for the majority of people you talk with, that's perfectly reasonable. But once Balgruf sends you to the Greybeards, he seems to forget that you're the Dragonborn. When you go back to talk to him during the Civil War, he doesn't recognize you as such, even though, interestingly, he will refer to you as Dragonborn if you do the peace negotiations during the main questline, and even though Ulfric will refer to you as the Dragonborn just before you kill him or Tullius. Another big example of you not being able to flex being the Dragonborn is with the companions. Really? These warriors that are supposedly following the tradition of another Nord hero wouldn't be interested in having the Dragonborn in their ranks? Of course, I realize you can do all these questlines before learning that you are indeed the Dragonborn, but so what? If you do them after you learn that, why can't you mention it to some people? And even if you think that'd be a bit forced, which honestly I agree with, you could easily envision a situation where some of the companions are talking about having heard of the Dragonborn and wondering if they'll ever join them, and then maybe you could mention that you are, in fact, that Dragonborn, and if they want, you can prove it to them. Either just by shouting at them, or maybe that wouldn't be enough to convince all of them, so you go kill a dragon with the remaining skeptics and win them over after that. You know, something like that. Then there's the possibility of talking about being a Dragonborn with the Emperor, but that's admittedly a bit far-fetched given the circumstances. Indeed, the biggest issue in my opinion is that, at least from what I've seen, your own followers don't seem to care too much about you being the Dragonborn. Which, again, for some is fair enough, but even to non-Nords, I have a hard time imagining that if you learn your companion who you've traveled with for days, weeks, or maybe even months, and you suddenly learn that they're this hero that legends speak of, even if they're legends of a foreign culture to you, you wouldn't have a few questions about it. But regardless, even Nord followers, even Uthgard, who wanted to join the companions, doesn't bring the topic up. Having recently played with a bunch of companion mods really brought this issue to light for me, since now they actually do acknowledge such things. You know, follower mods like Kaidan and Lydia with improved follower dialogue mod, stuff like that. Okay, there's also the problem of you narratively being ridiculously powerful. At least according to some people's interpretation of the lore.
Now ain't this a surprise? I'm the finished hero. Strong.
To me, however, I don't really mind not being nearly as powerful as you're narratively supposed to be, and I assume most people can look past this ludonarrative dissonance, since if in-game you were actually this godlike being, the gameplay would be, well, a bit shit. Regardless, you don't even need to introduce this dissonance if you simply don't play as this crazy powerful being. I mean, even in Bethesda's other titles, hell, even in Skyrim's predecessor, Oblivion, you play as just somebody. If we ignore the theory that the hero of Kvatch is a Shazarin, who ends up being very important, known for kind of saving Kvatch, and eventually becoming a godlike being only at the very end of their journey. To me, the way Oblivion represents your character's growing fame works much better exactly because you don't start as a prophesied chosen one whose power and status as such should be fairly easily proven. Indeed, you could argue that the true hero who saves the day and world in Oblivion, and therefore is more like the quote-unquote chosen one, is Martin Septim, who has to grow into his role and accept his fate throughout the story, and even then, outside of a few select people, nobody really knows who he is and what his role in the whole Oblivion crisis is. So you don't expect even the people that know who he is to treat him different than they would any other emperor, in contrast to what you'd expect people would expect from and how they would act towards the Dragonborn. A different example to illustrate this point would easily be The Witcher. The prophesized person in the Witcher universe is, obviously, Ciri, who you, for the most part, don't play as. We'll see how that works out in The Witcher 4, but being a Witcher, people treat you as you honestly would expect people to treat somebody slightly different than themselves. With distrust, sometimes outright racism, and, since Witchers are damn good fighters, with fear.
What do you want?
Give me a beer.
Your kind's not welcome here.
I said I wanted a beer.
We have no more. Very well. I'll see what I have.
Good man.
Everyone drink up. We're closing.
Innkeeper, do that again and I'll get angry. Wouldn't want that, would you?
No.
All right, I'll just tend to my business and be on my way.
What can I do for you?
Sometimes they'll treat you with respect if the person has had good experience with Witchers in the past or works in a similar field.
Greetings, Witcher. I'm the local hunter.
Greetings.
Wonder how I know you? No? So be it. What do you want?
I'm looking for witcher's work.
Since you're here, a monster supposedly haunts the lakeshore, devouring peasants late getting home. A ghoul may have made its lair in the crypt.
How much for each?
You witchers do nothing disinterestedly. Kill a monster, bring me proof, and I'll reward you generously.
How much do you collect for a drowner?
It's my professional secret.
Come on, we're in the same profession.
It seems so.
So, how much for a drowner?
Depends, but on average, 80 orens.
I've never come close to that. I knew something was wrong with those prices.
Calm down.
Progress wherever you look. Only witchers, the relics they are, still work for a pittance, while being called freaks by those they do favors for.
A fair day's wage for a fair day's work.
What was that?
Nothing, nothing.
Have we met?
Perhaps. I lost my memory.
I've never heard that before, though it's possible. The little medic will care for you.
Shawnee can't help.
Shame. Ah, now I remember. Geralt of Rivia. I hired you in Novigrad to rid my storage of Garcanes.
If you say so.
I hadn't sufficient coin, but you helped me nonetheless.
Guess I was generous then.
My business has grown, so I'll pay this old debt.
I could use the gold.
Here's 100 orens.
While Geralt is a famous Witcher and a bit more mutated than the others, he's not that special that you'd expect people to treat you in any other manner than they do. So, like I said, we'll see how CDPR handles Ciri being the player character in the next title, because she absolutely is special in that world. Now, it seems to me like not a lot of people in that world are aware of Ithlinne's prophecy. Bear in mind, it's been years since I read the books, so I'm mainly going off of games here. Additionally, Ciri absolutely is incredibly powerful, but CDPR can bullshit their way out of that by saying that she doesn't want to use her powers so as not to attract attention to herself or whatever. But again, we'll see what happens in the fourth game. With regards to Geralt, even in the books, he gets his ass handed to him fairly regularly. Again, he may be a Witcher, mutated more than the rest of them, but he absolutely can and does still lose fights, which helps with that ludonarrative dissonance whenever he loses in-game and people stand up to him thinking they have a chance. Because they do.
Who are you?
A witcher.
Well, well. I thought Leo Bonhart had disposed of your kind.
Never heard of him.
Nor will you again. We all, in this profession, eventually meet someone better than us.
What profession is that?
Bounty hunter. What brings you here?
Who was Bonhart?
Old Leo was a legend. In some ways, he was like you. He killed without emotion. Just like you would kill a lame drowner. He was the best. Tall, slim, and one gaze from those empty eyes could break a man.
Was he a mage?
No. He slew some witchers. Those who riled the peasants. Magic tricks and witchers' reflexes proved useless against him.
But he's dead. As they say, he hit a harder rock than he was himself.
Yes. Take care, Witcher.
On the other hand, people really don't have a chance against someone like the last Dragonborn. Alright, next example. Gothic. Okay, so in Gothic 1, you're never told, nor is it ever implied, that you're more than just an ordinary person, and that's something you'll constantly see people praising that game for. And since you get thrown into a prison colony, the vast majority of people, especially in the beginning, will not give two shits about you and will try to get one over you. In the second game, however, you're immediately told that you may be chosen by one of the gods to fulfill this grand task. Of course, later in the game, that assumption is confirmed, and so why does that not bother me in this case? Well, your status as the chosen one is confirmed by obtaining and wielding a special amulet, and very few people know of the existence and meaning of said amulet. So even after you obtain it, only the people that know its meaning will acknowledge it. For the vast majority of people you meet, however, nothing will change. They will still treat you the way you'd expect. As opposed to the first game, you are no longer in a prison colony. However, in the beginning, you're wearing ragged clothes, so most people won't trust you. Some will even, correctly, assume you are a former convict. So, just like in the first game, you have to deal with some people being assholes to you at the beginning of the game.
Hey, stranger. I saw how you came out of the mountains. You can be glad you didn't come by here 3 weeks ago. We would have taken you for an escaped convict. And we made short work of those. You look completely done in. What do you want here?
Who do we have here? You're on your way to the city. Am I not right?
Maybe.
You look like a fugitive. All fugitives are headed for the city. You could even be a former convict for the mining colony. I don't care where you come from, but I believe I have an interesting offer for you.
What do you have to offer?
The way you look, the guards will never let you into the city. I can help you get into the city. I have here a small piece of paper with the royal seal and the governor's signature. A pass. With this scrap of paper in your pocket, you can run about as raggedly as you please, and the guards will leave you alone. Interested?
However, as you progress through the story, depending on which faction you join, people will start treating you appropriately. For example, people will treat a guard fairly indifferently, but once you become a knight, they start showing you some much-deserved respect. On the contrary, mages enjoy the highest degree of respect through and through.
Hey, stranger. I saw how you came out of the mountains. You can be glad you didn't come by here 3 weeks ago. We would have taken you for an escaped convict. And we made short work of those. You looked completely done in when you arrived. Well, you look almost human again by now. What do you want here?
How goes the work, peasant?
I can't complain.
Can I do something for you?
What do you have to offer?
I am a traveling merchant. I sell a bit of everything.
Show me your wares.
Take your pick.
Hello, stranger. You must be hungry and thirsty. Perhaps I can interest you in my wares.
That was obvious all along. What do you have to offer?
At the moment, I don't have much choice. The damned landowner doesn't deliver anymore. And what we get from the small farms isn't enough to meet the demands of the city.
Show me your wares.
I hardly know what to believe anymore, not touching that.
Hello, stranger. You must be hungry and thirsty. Perhaps I can interest you in my wares.
We can only wait and see.
What do you have to offer?
At the moment, I don't have much choice. The damned landowner doesn't deliver anymore. And what we get from the small farms isn't enough to meet the demands of the city.
That's been known a long time.
Show me your wares.
I must beg your pardon for my poor selection. A man in your position is certainly used to better. Halt! Only the citizens of the town and the king's troops can get into the upper end of the town.
I belong to the militia. Let me pass.
So, Andre accepted you. Then he can't be such a bad guy after all. You are now one of the protectors of the city, so be nice and friendly towards the citizens. Halt! Only the citizens of the town and the king's troops can get into the upper end of the town.
You dare stand in the way of a representative of Innos?
No, of course not. The entrance is open to the chosen of Innos.
Pray to Innos for this sacrilege.
Where do you come from?
I'm here on behalf of Garand.
Very good. I can certainly use new men.
I am not here to assist you.
No? Then why did you come?
My mission is to find out how much ore you have mined so far.
Honored magician. Your presence gives me and my men confidence. It would certainly be helpful to us if you could use your Innos-given power for us.
My mission is more urgent than that. I can't help you.
Naturally, Honored One. I will inform you about everything you wish to know. Where do you come from?
I'm here on behalf of Garand.
Very good. I can certainly use new men.
I am not here to assist you.
No? Then why did you come?
My mission is to find out how much ore you have mined so far.
Listen, I don't know why Garand sent me a mercenary, but he must have a reason. But before I send you back, you will carry out a mission for me.
No, I've got no time to take care of your problem.
You're turning down easy money? I would never have expected that from a mercenary. Since you don't want to help us, I suggest you ask your questions and then clear off again. Where do you come from?
I'm here on behalf of Garand.
Very good. I can certainly use new men.
I am not here to assist you.
No? Then why did you come?
My mission is to find out how much ore you have mined so far.
And my mission is to do everything I deem necessary in order to mine the ore and protect it. That includes the requisitioning of men. You are in the service of Innos. Therefore, you will follow my orders.
I already have an order from Garand.
And you will carry it out. But only when I send you back. All I want to hear from you now is, what can I do for you? Understood?
What can I do for you?
For days, a horde of snappers has been roaming around our camp. Looks like they're just waiting for a good opportunity to attack. I don't know what they're waiting for. But as long as they're here, there's no peace to be had in the camp. That Fed, above all the rest, is scared out of his mind and driving the other convicts crazy. So who should I send? Bilgot? Ha! He's a wreck too. And Tengron? Sure, he can fight, but he lacks the necessary guile. The only one who can do it is you. I want you to hunt down those damn beasts and kill them.
There is a bit of a hierarchy within the faction, but a normal fire mage enjoys no less respect than a member of the High Council. For an in-universe explanation, you can imagine that either ordinary people don't know about the distinction, or they feel like they're already being respectful enough. I don't want to spend too much time on this, since realistically the reason for that is probably just that the developers didn't want to account for even more dialogue options. So, in Gothic 2, your status as the Chosen One has no bearing on the way people interact with you, and if you bring up the amulet to pretty much anybody, they won't know what you're talking about and are more likely to take you for a lunatic than anything else. And once you are confirmed as the Chosen One, most people don't know about it and have no reason to expect anything great from you because of that. Instead, they start relying on you because of what you have achieved already until that point.
I can hardly believe it. Are you really a paladin now?
Obviously.
If someone like you is with the paladins, then Beliar's thugs had better watch out. If you did in the sleeper, that handful of orcs shouldn't be a problem.
This is not only about the orcs.
I know, but it's still good to have you on our side.
Oh well.
What are you doing here in the monastery? Let me guess. You want to be instructed in the art of magic.
Perhaps.
I knew it. Best to talk to Marduk. He's responsible for you paladins. You'll find him in front of the chapel.
Yeah, I won't go into details with this next example, but I just want to bring it up since I have now learned that I should bring such obvious examples up. Kingdom Come Deliverance. Okay, bear with me again. I haven't played the second game yet, but for the point I want to make, the first game is more than enough, and the point is simply this. Kingdom Come turns this idea upside down in the sense that you are much more important than you yourself realize, and certain people know of your status while you don't. Which, in my opinion, also works really well, though on the other hand, that game isn't fantasy at all, so you wouldn't expect people to have any ridiculous expectations of you. I guess, at most, you could run into a group of fanatics that are convinced, for whatever reason, that you're the second coming of Jesus Christ. Alright, like I said earlier, the fact that you're the chosen one and are therefore expected to win the big confrontation in various games doesn't even bother me. Yeah, I can see people getting tired of the trope, but for me, the big issue is how Skyrim messes up your immersion in interactions because of that. So, is being the last Dragonborn Skyrim's biggest flaw? Yeah, I suppose that is more subjective than objective, especially depending on what you're looking for in video games. Personally, I always prioritize gameplay over anything else in video games. But in RPGs, immersion is the second most important factor to me, and this is why I made that distinction at the beginning of the video. To me, when NPCs ignore the fairly obvious fact that we're the last Dragonborn isn't a story issue, it's an immersion issue. And like I alluded to, Skyrim makes such mistakes outside of the main storyline as well. Either your followers won't acknowledge certain things that you'd absolutely expect them to acknowledge, like Lydia not giving any amount of shit about climbing the 7,000 steps and being on High Hrothgar, where supposedly Nords were created. Even if she doesn't subscribe to that idea, you would expect her to comment on it, if for no other reason than because she climbed the 7,000 steps. That's a big deal regardless of your spiritual beliefs. Hell, if you wanted to get more meta about it, I'd even appreciate it if she made a snarky remark about how there aren't even 1,000 steps on that climb. Aside from that, Skyrim suffers massively from bad pacing with pretty much all of its storylines. A lot has been said about that already, so I don't think I have to rant too much about that, but if you're watching this video and you got to this point, I'm sure you've played through all of Skyrim's questlines and found at least some of them incredibly rushed. I actually think the main storyline is paced fairly well. The main problem why the main storyline feels rushed is that you are pretty much constantly put under pressure to keep going with it, narratively. Once you deliver the Dragonstone tablet, or whatever the thing is called, from Bleak Falls Barrow, the dragon attacks, and after that point, I never feel like there's a breather in the storyline to do any other quests. Of course, after I kill that first dragon, I tend to focus on other things first, before going to High Hrothgar, but narratively, it feels weird to keep the Greybeards waiting for in-game weeks, if not months, before showing up after they've summoned me, especially since there's this big threat of dragons coming back, and we're presumably the only ones that can really stop them. Oblivion actually had a similar problem. Once you deliver the Amulet of Kings to Joffrey, it's hard not to feel pressured by the narrative to keep pushing through the main story. Now, I've seen people say that they like to do the other storylines in Oblivion when Martin sends them to bring him a Daedric artifact, since they can headcanon that it'd take them a while to find the Daedric shrine and complete the task that Daedra sets them anyway, which I can agree with. Anyway, outside of Skyrim's main quest, especially the companions and the Mage's College feel very rushed in the sense of how fast you progress through them. The companions lead you to believe that it'll take a lot of work before you can join their inner circle, but in reality it takes one Radiant quest before you are set a task, after which you join that inner circle. And they act like you've been with them for a long time before giving you that task as well, just to add insult to injury. Anyway, the Companions questline is notorious in this sense. A lot of people complain that it's too short and therefore too fast. Now, maybe I'm wrong in my perception, but it seems to me like not as many people find the College's questline awkward as well. Though, to be fair, with that questline, I think there are only two very apparent pacing issues. First one is at the very beginning. Again, you join the college, have a brief introductory lecture, and then you're instantly told to go on a field trip to this ancient excavation site, which hasn't been fully explored yet, so God knows what's hidden inside it. Putting aside the fact that we, as players, know to expect dangers to still be there, it becomes fairly obvious the college, or at the very least its headmaster, doesn't give a flying fuck about students getting hurt or even killed. So the ruins not being fully explored and secured isn't even such a big deal, and granted, for all the mages knew it was fully explored, as the unexplored part was completely blocked off. The more awkward point is that considering how important these particular ruins are, being the first North settlement on the continent, I don't think you trust completely fresh students going over them and possibly damaging all sorts of ancient artifacts. So, my argument here is that being sent on this little excursion as a fresh student makes no sense and feels rushed about as much as joining the inner circle in the companion's questline does. Aside from that, being made the headmaster at the end of it all also feels awkward as hell, since for the most part of the questline you don't even spend much time at the college. Of course, considering what all you have to do throughout the whole college questline, you can say that all of that is proof enough that you're powerful enough to become the Archmage, but I think there's only 3 times in that entire questline when you have to use magic, and one of them is in Sarthal, that one time to get past the wall into the unexplored part of the ruins, and the other one is during the lecture at the beginning of the questline when you have to cast one word spell. And then finally in the Dwemer ruins you have to cast some novice level spells to focus the oculary. Aside from that, even when you ask to join the college, you can talk your way out of showing any degree of magical know-how. So, making Archmage someone who, for all the people at the college know, can only cast 2 spells seems awkward. And it's even more awkward when you realize that, okay, you have that title now, but it doesn't do anything. Yeah, sometimes people will refer to you as the Archmage, which is more than you get for being a Dragonborn, I suppose, but you can't do anything tangible with that position. Same goes for being named the Harbinger of the Companions. Well, at least with the Companions, it's established early on that they don't have a leader, so you know not to expect jack shit from being named that, even though there clearly is a hierarchy within the Companions, and the Companions do defer to the Harbinger's opinion, and the Harbinger is the one who can unilaterally decide who joins them, but whatever. I suppose the fact that the college's questline and really Winterhold in general was rushed doesn't help. Apparently, initially, Jazargo was supposed to become the Archmage, which would make much more sense considering how ambitious his character is. Same thing goes for joining the Thieves Guild. Your trial is a simple robbery and a quick shakedown, and after that you're instantly told to go break into a house that even their best members couldn't get to. Come on. Well, alright. I think I made my point, no need to go into depth on the Thieves Guild. As for the Dark Brotherhood, I actually think they paced that one really well. In contrast with all of that, in Gothic, I feel like I actually earned all the promotions. Probably most gratifying one being actually becoming a mage. It is said in-game that becoming a mage takes a lot of time and effort as a novice. Of course, you don't have that kind of time, so thankfully you learn about a shorter way to becoming a mage, but even before you learn about that, you have to do a bunch of menial tasks as a novice, and then pass a test which, for a new player, assuming they're not looking anything up, will be a bit tricky, resulting in a great feeling of accomplishment when you do become a mage. Or, moving up from a simple militiaman to a knight requires you to go behind the lines of the orcs, do what you might call a recon mission in an orc-infested area, and once you've done that, you still have to do some detective work to prove a man's innocence before you are made a knight. After that, you are never really made a paladin, since presumably nobody in the area has the authority to make you one. You do get a paladin's armor, but you're never properly promoted to one. Okay, I think I made all the points I wanted to make for my argument. Initially, I thought I would only rant about how being the last Dragonborn isn't executed well. I wanted to finish this video off by saying that, yeah, being the chosen one in Skyrim is bad, but that's just because the concept wasn't executed well, not that the concept itself is inherently bad, as can be seen in other games. However, after writing all of this, I realized that Skyrim has a hard time selling you a fantasy of any sort of character. Once you become the Harbinger, you still have to talk to other companion members for work. Once you become the Archmage, you can leave the college and nobody will care, nothing will go wrong, nobody will miss you. And very few people care that you're the Dragonborn at all, even among the people you'd expect would care about it. So, is the lack of immersion the biggest flaw in Skyrim? I know there are a lot of people who find Skyrim incredibly immersive, so I can't say definitively that Skyrim isn't immersive. But at the very least, for me, it really isn't. And a lot of it could be greatly improved by just slowing down the quest lines a little bit. For example, what the mod College of Winterhold quest expansion does is perfect. Makes you learn more spells, makes sure you're at least a somewhat proficient mage before sending you to explore ancient ruins. Something similar for the companions would be great. The mod At Your Own Pace does that to a lesser degree. It forces you to do more Radiant quests and have a certain level of weapon skill to be eligible to become the Harbinger, which is great. The only thing that would be better is if, instead of forcing you to do Radiant quests, the mod actually made new quests to do as a newcomer to the companions, but even without that, it's much better than what the base game does. That being said, like I mentioned just before, a lot of people still find Skyrim immersive for whatever reason. I mean, there are certainly things that are very immersive about it. Yeah, being able to chop wood or work on farms for money are such things. Or turning on survival mode and having to eat, drink and rest every once in a while really adds to that immersion. And this is coming from someone who generally thinks that such survival mechanics usually hurt the RPG experience, but yeah, Skyrim does it really well. Besides, even for me, I wouldn't say that these immersion-breaking moments are the worst part of Skyrim. But they are probably the second most annoying thing for me. The worst part is definitely the combat. After all, like I said at the very beginning, I'm much more concerned with gameplay than anything else in games. However, these lackluster interactions with other characters really take me out of it. I wouldn't mind the poor combat as much if the game did these interactions better. But as it is, I have to play with an ungodly amount of mods to enjoy this godforsaken game. On the other hand, an example of a game where I also don't like the combat, but I think the character interactions are great, would have to be Dragon's Age Origins. But I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty about that here, just giving an example of a game that does it well. At any rate, that's all I wanted to say about this. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.